morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is July 17th, 2023. Bender, you're back after being refreshed in the heart of Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. How does it feel? Refreshed.
Refreshed? No, that's not. It was not refreshing. It was like 104
Oh.
every day. It was not. It's not
But
refreshing.
everybody tells me that Texas is like paradise. Do those temperatures does that make you think of paradise?
Maybe when you're like on a beach or something. Even then, it's too damn hot.
Even
no,
though
it's
the
not.
Gulf Coast beaches have like 85% feces on the coast.
I wasn't talking about a Gulf Coast beach.
Well, that would be the only beach for Texas. So
Right. I wouldn't travel there if I was looking for a vacation either.
Oh.
Yeah.
Deep in the heart of Texas. All right.
No, it wasn't refreshing. It was a good time. Not gonna lie, we met some great people and had some fun. And
any pineapples involved?
No pineapples. No, that's not. Those aren't my circles. But you know, we did have fun. We played a lot of the games that you would typically find at a campground or tailgating. Tiki frisbee and cornhole and stuff like that. You do all of this. You set up this whole production and go through all this effort, and the combined total of race time is less than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of time in between where you're just like, well, what should we do now? Is it too early to crack a beer? All right, we might as well start. Bring out the boards. Let's start playing. Although I'll tell you, because of the heat, it was like nobody really stepped outside their trailers until 6:30, 7 o'clock. It was just
sun
like
goes down?
Yeah, it was like
There's a song there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. They're like, what time are we racing? 10:30 in the morning. Okay, so we got to get up. We got to, daughter has to go feed and take care of the horse and tack up. And we go. Luckily, this is one of the very few arenas that we go to that has air conditioning in the arena. So you can go sit in the arena and watch the event, and it's nice and cool. But then once that 17 seconds of racing is over with, it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to go lock myself up in the camper where I got air conditioning and sit in there until the sun goes down.
Until the sun goes down?
Yes.
On your side of town?
On my side of town, yeah.
Did that lonesome feeling come to your door?
Okay, let's move on.
And did the whole world turn blue?
Feelings. You said the F word.
All right. Well, it was an interesting time when you were gone. We got some ripper candles to the upside. We got a mediocre sell on Friday. Overnight we played double bottom butt games, and now here we are, slightly down, VIX down, dollar slightly elevated. There's some tickers that are sitting strong. Apple sitting strong this morning. Tesla sitting strong this morning. We have earnings this week. We have Netflix earnings. Bender, Netflix will do their ER. Tesla will do their ER. It's an interesting week. Yeah, no,
Yep.
Very interesting. And I do believe that Fed boys and girls are on shut the fuck up time right now. So I don't believe that they will be speaking. So we have a market that is basically going to revolve around earnings and maybe just a little bit of data, just a little bit. So no jabbering. With that being said, Bender, chart us up, buddy. Show us what we got.
Oh, we're already there, huh?
We're already there. Look, it's like I can go into Chinese GDP slipping again, which everybody kind of knew about. I could go into the massive, dueling headlines, over the weekend, which was very, very goofy to say the least. It's like I posted one of them that was like the Sunday morning front page on the market section of a Wall Street Journal that was just like, come on. It's like, so if you want to know what the news is today, that kind of stuff, here, this summarizes. Buoyant global economy is starting to sag. Okay, there's that one. Right next to it, economists are cutting back on their recession expectations. So, what?
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it,
like,
it's par for the course, right? Like this is all we. It's like you can't. You can. You can almost bet that any headline will see an opposite headline.
yeah, but
Or
these
something.
were right, Bender. These were right
Yeah,
next to each other on the
I get
front
it.
page of the weekend edition of Wall Street Journal. I was just sitting there, just going, "Why? What? At
Yeah.
least put it like two sections. Like separate them a little bit. That what I posted here. That was a snippet, like just a little screen grab. So them sitting right next to each other. I did not like do the photoshops and whatnot. That was right next to each other. So it's like when we're asking what's going on in the world, nobody fucking knows. Everybody's making bets on both sides. Everybody's like, well, it's like we know what the Fed is doing. We know what the direction is going. We know this and that. We know, okay. Then you have the other camp saying, well, you have not seen the worst of the worst. It's like, worst of what? With what? And how? And where? Where's the catalyst for the worst? Where?
Yep.
What is it? It's like
Yep.
it is a very, very messy picture out there. So it's best that we just kind of, I think, until there's some type of consistency with the story that they want us to believe. And I say it that way because it's like it's not about any type of real reality. It's whatever they want us to believe within the moment.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
like, okay, cool. So at least until there's consistency with what they want us to believe, you can't play the yin and yang of, well, no, we all going to die, but we're going to live real good. It's like, come on, shut up, just shut up. So
Yep.
chart us up there, big boy.
All right. Well, here you go.
It was
This
Aggie the
is.
only one who got the reference as far as Brooks and Dunn? Was he the only one?
I'm gonna say that most people got it. I would think
Okay,
he's just the only one that would comment about a neon moon reference. Okay.
great song.
Here we go. Here's the 60-minute chart. What you see, what I've got marked out here, we got the Asia session low down here, 45.28.25, and the London session high, 45.39.25. So far, London took out the Asia session high, but not the low. That's still hanging out down there. We have a below that 45.28. You have a new day opening gap top. This is regular trading hours. If I change my chart here, you can see there's an actual gap in here. So that's 45.21.25. The bottom of that being 45.11.75. There's not a whole lot, if it gives up that Asia session low. There's not a whole lot in here before,
It gets fucking.
yeah, there's not a whole lot to stop it from taking out or
Agreed.
going to try to fill some of that gap, right? And then you see down here, you got this 60-minute fair value gap that we kind of pierced down into. We were looking at this pullback here was a 50% retracement on that news candle. I think that was CPI or something like that last week. So that was a 50% retracement. And the 1618 of that move is up here. So, if it takes out that, takes out that Asia session low and it's by, if it does the whole one tick and then it starts to push back up, then the first target would be the London session high up there, 45.39.5. And then this 50% right here, 44.75, that's from this high that was made on Friday to the Asia session low. So this down move to retrace 50% of that would put you 45.45. Or 44.75. If I go back to the 15-minute, you'll see that that is also the top of that 15-minute fair value gap. Really small one right in here, but I have that on there because if it takes out the London session high, that would be, this is where I'd be looking to see what kind of reaction we get. Because if it gets through that, then it's probably going to take out all this stuff in here and, probably work its way up towards 45, 60, 75. You still have that fair value gap on the daily, just a little bit higher, 45, 62, 25. That wasn't quite filled. I mean, close enough. I don't know, but it wasn't quite filled. That's still sitting out there. So above this, 45, 44, 75, then you start looking for it to recapture these little swing highs in here. Below that Asia session low, look for it to pierce into this new day opening gap top. Again, the bottom of that being a couple handles lower. And if it really starts to push down from there, if it breaks that, as a starting point, it breaks that Asia session low, look for it to come into this gap. If it doesn't start moving right back up after piercing into that, we look for it to fill the bottom of that. And if that gap, again, go back to regular trading hours, that gap, the bottom of that gap being 45.11.75. If it fills that and that becomes resistance, then we look for it to take this swing low right here. So this would be right around that 4,500 whole round number, right? And that's kind of that next, all right? It pierces that and starts moving back up. Maybe that was to take out the stops at 4,500. If it breaks that and that becomes resistance, now we're really talking about, you got some stuff in here that can fill back in, right? There's another gap in here. You got some 60-minute fair value gaps in here, but you can see that would kind of start the process of filling some of this back in. That's kind of what I'm looking at. You can see we've got the top of that parallel channel sitting up here. That would come in today. That would come in if it decided to rally, up closer to 4,600, 4,590-ish in here if it really wants to rally. And that yellow dotted line being the midpoint of this channel, which has seen reaction. That's about all I got, I think. Over to the BTC Bitcoin chart real quick. Obviously, we've been talking about this one for a few weeks. I'm going to be paying attention to Bitcoin today and kind of see what it wants to do. Obviously, we talked about the 50% retracement of this move. It recaptured that retook that high. So that would have been the first target on a 50% retracement. First target would be to reclaim or retake the high that was made before the pullback, which it has done. It also, you've got this move that was the 50% retracement, and it pushed up to that 1618 level. So again, just tracking this as we talked about last week. If it breaks that 32,000, it's probably going to make a run for this 1272 extension, 34,190.77. Again, keep an eye on your Mara, your Riot. There was another one that was
riot.
Because it's a riot. another one that was passed to me. I think it's called SDIG, which has one of the lowest cost per Bitcoin mined, which is, that will be there's going to be two sort of metrics when you're looking at these, right? One is how much total can they mine, and the other one is going to be the cost per Bitcoin that is mined. And they have, I think, the lowest or one of the lowest cost per Bitcoin mined. I think that's about it.
All right. Sonny, what you got, buddy?
Morning, everyone. A lot of news, a lot of upgrades and downgrades this morning. So starting with upgrades, Baidu, Chewy, eCar, PGR, and Yelp. So Yelp I had covered last week also. There was some investor coming into it, wants to sell it at 70. So Goldman Sachs like jumping on the bandwagon. They're like, okay, sell it for 47. Downgrades, there's a whole lot of downgrades. Start with CAG. They had ER last week, I think. CYRX, it's a double downgrade from KeyBank and Stephens. Bigs, MSCI is a big one. They underperformed from neutral at 450. Pepsi, STT we had also heard news about last week how the ER wasn't going to be good. So they got downgraded by JP Morgan, KBW, UBS. Citi downgraded it. The price target 16. Twilio, Yeti, and WFC, all downgrades. AMD had some interesting upgrade.
Wait, they downgraded Wells Fargo?
Yeah.
That ER wasn't that bad. What was it? Did they give reason for it?
They didn't, but this is also from like Odeon Capital. I've never heard of them.
Oh.
So probably like on the small side.
We need to have like a Roadhouse deal to where we like
upgrade and downgrade.
Yeah, this is fucking just, it's like, let's get on this.
Yeah.
Let's get an intern.
Well, Stonky works for the government. Maybe we can have the paperwork started there. So AMD and NVIDIA had interesting downgrade and upgrade by Citi. So they downgraded AMD. They say that there's a negative 90-day catalyst. I think there's going to be some revision of the numbers, correction on the numbers for the data center, gaming, and embedded markets. That may not look good for AMD. While they say, hey, NVIDIA, there's like no competitor for NVIDIA in this game. They have the strongest AI advantage and favorable risk reward, and they raised the price target to 520. On the coverage
I think
initiated,
it's a foregone conclusion that thing's going to rip 500 at some point. I think it's like, no, of course it is.
They just keep buying that thing up. And you're right. I mean, you don't see what's the risk, right? Before it was okay, gaming and Bitcoin, and unless there's some negative AI or something coming out.
AMD is still one that I think that there's an opportunity to get it to thump to the outside. There's plenty of those August and September 130 and 140 calls hanging out there.
Yeah. Interestingly, like so on the AMD, so they did do a downgrade, but they kept the price target at 120. $5.
Yeah, seems like just saying something to be saying something.
On the other world news, so you touched on this, Morgan Stanley cut China's GDP forecast to 5 from 5.7%. Russia has pulled out of the Black Sea grain deal, so they wouldn't be protecting any of the shipments going through. So Turkey is trying to revive that deal, make sure they get it going. So UN is to discuss the AI risks in the first formal meeting on the new tech. Before ChatGPT, AI didn't exist. UN is going to step in.
I feel so much better.
I do too. We have the UN that never does anything. We're going to have a meeting.
We're united. We're gonna have,
I think Kamala's behind this one because 2 letters.
Well, again, after her last little press conference on AI, it's like I have never felt more secure in knowing that we are fucked, beyond fucked. So yeah carry on.
It's
and
weird
so
because
airline
it's both
sector.
artificial and it's intelligence.
It's intel.
Well, it's 2 words and
It's
also
2
2
words.
letters.
Yes, and it's very interesting.
It's
And
interesting.
yeah.
And so it learns with machines to know more. I think that sums it up. I think we're solid.
Putting Comline charge was
all you need to
all
know.
we needed to know. Yeah.
It's like, come on.
So United Airlines reached an agreement with their pilots, that giving them a 40% raise, which is like worth about $10 billion. So on the airline side, pretty much all the airlines have reached deal with their pilots except for Southwest. So Southwest is much closer to going on a strike, and we've seen some downside plays come into Southwest the last week or so. And on the bio side, BBIO, so they're up 20% pre-market. They have some good data on heart disease fixing, and they're looking to submit their data over to FDA sometime this week and have an investor call at 8 a.m. today. I'll be watching that if we get some news movement and things like that on it. And that's about it.
All right, very good. Stonkington, where is it? The Stonkington? Did you make it back from the hippie land, the hippie mecca that you attended?
I did. I successfully hippied it up, and I made it back in one piece. Still waking up over here, but I'm ready. Let's do this. All right, let's get into some charts. We got the NASDAQ here with nothing on it. This is a weekly chart, and basically just kind of got this one up here to note. Personally, I'm kind of bracing for difficult trading, reversal type trading. And the reason would be we had just a massive candle last week, and we can kind of see that a big candle, it takes some smaller candles to make the big ones, basically. Big candle, difficult week, choppy. Bigger candle, difficult week, tight range. So there's last week. So I think we just got to be. I know me. I'm going to be just kind of extra cautious. Potential for reversals, difficult stuff. The other thing, there was a headline on the NASDAQ potentially doing some rebalancing coming up. So I think that could affect, it's like if we have the big guys that have just been shredding to the upside, and then they're going to be lower weighted in the next couple of weeks when they do this rebalancing. I think it does happen in July. We could see some reaction to how the NASDAQ is going to be moving. So stuff to think about. If we jump into the chart that I have the markups on, here's an hourly chart. Kind of looks like a bear flag to me. We have this open fair value gap on the NASDAQ, and then we had this one. We have this one here that we are trading up into. For this blue box to work as support, we would need an hourly candle to close above that 724.75. So until we got that, I would expect this area to keep working as resistance. And yeah, we kind of got this bear flag look to it. Pink box is going to be the new week opening gap. Yep, that pink box. Mr. T lesson to keep in the back of our minds: if we are going to have a choppy week, he says, if we keep bouncing around the new week opening gap, that's a signal. If we have to keep coming back to that, that's just a heads up forecast that we would have a very choppy week. The gold boxes are daily fair value gaps. So we've got stuff to fill in below. If we look above, if we're going to kind of keep riding this trend line up, this could be, we've got the smaller time frame 1 hour boxes for our first upside targets, and then we've got this stuff open that's from a while ago. The gold boxes again, that would be downside targets, with this being the first one, that 507.75, And then we've got this order block line. If we get into this area, I'd be watching for the reaction to that. 433.50. So just going to kind of see what we get on the NASDAQ. Again, kind of looks like an hourly bear flag. So we'll kind of see what we get there. Let's see if we jump over to the Russell. The Russell was kind of interesting this week.
And he was getting fucking posterized with bearish flow.
Yeah, and just looking at the chart here, we've got what I thought was notable here is that we've got equal high, basically relative equal highs and equal lows, which it's like someone stops about to get run, and is it going to be a bull or is it going to be a bear, and then are we going to get continuation in either direction? Gold boxes, we've got the daily fair value gaps, some big moves end of last week. This one here is going to be the new week opening gap, the pink line right there, and then we've got some smaller hourly fair value gaps. This was kind of interesting too, this little volume imbalance, the difference between the bodies of those candles. Would be interested to see if we've got back up into that area, and then again the big fair value gap there on the Russell. So yeah, I think it's an interesting setup. Just going to be looking for whose stop gets ran first, and does it get momentum in that direction, or is it just a stop run? Get the hit the bull stop and then push it up, so I'll be interested to see how they play that out on the Russell. If we jump into some individual tickers, some interesting weekly bars that are weekly inside bars that are not usually on my favorite to trade list, but I've got some alerts set up. Wolf's out there. That's one of them.
That seems to be gaining a lot of interweb bro traffic as far as Wolf.
Okay.
A lot of interweb, a lot of people talking about the Wolf for reasons I'm not real sure, but thanks for the chart.
Yeah, this one, it's like if we're trying to find those that haven't run, semis been on fire, this could be something interesting to watch. Not usually on my list. Similarly, we're going to get some alerts if we get a break on the Murder Mouse. That was a weekly inside bar.
That motherfucker.
Yeah, something about this area, if we zoom way out, this down here seems to be important. We've been banging around, kind of hanging on by a thread. So I have an alert set on that 87.85. If we were to break that, just a massive longer term downtrend.
Yeah, but it's getting to the point on Disney where Mickey Mouse's life rights are worth more than what the stock price is right now.
Well,
it's like we're starting to get into really stupid territory. But there's a lot of headwind for that industry over there. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll get an alert if we lose this 87.85. Gold boxes are these shaded areas. I think you guys can see that there. That's dark pool from a long time ago. These just happen to be areas where they stacked it with dark pool. And then above, I've just got an alert set on 89.80. So it's a pretty big range, but we'll get some alerts popping. That was a weekly inside bar.
The other thing that I'll say about Disney is Iger hinted at basically selling off a lot of their broadcast properties, basically trying to leave TV in a lot of ways. So it's like that one could be very headline sensitive when it comes to things like ESPN, ABC, that kind of stuff. If they want to spur any of some of the ancillary platforms that they have, could be really interesting and very headline driven to go ahead and rip it if they so choose to start really pushing that narrative. I'd be careful with Disney if you're thinking Murder Mouse is going to be completely and utterly dead, but timing that upward move could be difficult, just as difficult.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of like, I put the alerts on it because it's one that I don't really like to trade that much because of that kind of stuff, where it's like you could be sitting in a trade and then all of a sudden, headline hits and there you go. So we'll get the alerts. We'll see what we get there. The other weekly inside bar that I thought was interesting was Moderna. It's been stuck in this big falling setup here. This is another one where we'll get alerts below 120.15, and then if it was to break 123 to the upside. When I looked at flow for this week on Moderna, there was a lot of butt stuff, arbitrage,
Mm-hmm.
big put blocks. And I'm like, well, the chart looks kind of bullish to me in this falling setup. And usually, big put blocks is kind of like an ignore, but I'm just going to kind of watch and see if they hit it with any flow for this week.
And there was a measles outbreak headline that was kind of pushed away a little bit over the weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
Measles in Europe.
So we'll get some alerts on Moderna that pop in the room. And then otherwise, I'll kind of just be like watching the regulars, maybe Apple, Nvidia, and then we'll see what we get on the flow.
All right. So last week on Friday, we talked about a couple of tickers that we thought could make a move. Team being one of them. And Team had that explosion to the upside up into 190 where it double topped and gave back. Big empty wick over there on Team. I think any type of flow that comes through on Team to the upside is going to be worth taking. We also talked about how there was a lot of lag when it came to Apple in the market, Tesla in the market, and AMD in the market. It's like if we go and look at AMD specifically, we had that, again, a very nice candle to the upside, but when everything gave out, it all gave out together. There are still plenty of AMD calls for the 130s and 140s going out to early fall. So if they come back in, they start hitting those, they come back in and start hitting this week's 120s, it could be something to kind of keep your eyes on and kind of play around when it comes to AMD. Tesla reports on Wednesday. There is a lot of spec flow to the upside on Tesla and very, very little downside flow on Tesla. Very little. Very, very little. So again, let's see how they play it out. Margins are going to be something that's going to be important that people are going to look at, but they made a decision that they were going to go for volume as opposed to margin. Let's see how that plays out to their bottom line. And I think what's going to be interesting about that story is we all know the moves that they've made in order to become vertically integrated and so controlling their own supply chain. Let's see if they're getting the fruits of that labor, of that investment that they made to control their supply chain and not be at the mercy of whoever and whatever that may be over there on the Tesla. Last one that I want to talk about again is Apple. Apple, since making that all-time high, has traded back down to some pretty legitimate support. We saw a little hankering of a move up. I do believe Apple is going to make a move higher this week. And really start to push. This is where it becomes interesting with some of the charts that we saw from both Bender and Stonkington, and something that we have to keep in mind. This market has been rotating over and over and over and over again. So in theory, they can sell Microsoft, pump Apple, pump Amazon, pump Tesla, sell Nvidia, buy AMD, right? And pump Meta, and markets are going to be flat to up. It's like we have to, instead of looking for this massive broad market pull down, we have to go back sometimes and take a look at the individual charts that make up the actual market. So they lagged Apple. Apple's made a move off of the bottom, and I believe it is looking to make a higher high in through here in short order. I think we can say the same about, and I don't want to be redundant about it, but we have to be aware of not only the market conditions, but the individual pieces that make the market what it is. That chart that you showed on the Russell, look, everybody knows that the Russell is just jam-packed full of a bunch of massive fucking dog shit over there. We all know it. There's no reason to pretend like it's not. But there's still a lot of questions regarding regional banks and how they're going to be able to hold up if the Fed does not completely back off of this rate rise. Now, can they get there and save the bank to keep something catastrophic from happening? Absolutely. But they actually have to report earnings, and they actually have to show that they're viable. So keeping an eye on the Russell and understanding that thing is jam-packed full of dog shit could be very beneficial to you. As far as looking at something to where if there's anything out there that is worthy of having its throat slit off of the levels that we are, It's the Russell. It's the Russell. So if you're hell bent on shorting, look for an entry on the Russell. Stay away from some of this other tech stuff that it has the ability to absolutely massacre you. If you hell bent bear, hell bent recession, stay away from shorting tech. Keep your eyes peeled on the Russell. That's all I got. You guys have anything else?
No, nothing from. Thank you.
Nothing. All right. That's all I got. We got 3 minutes until open. 3 minutes, some change. Let's have a good day, boys and girls. Let's go get it.
I was just looking at real quick. I was just looking at that Disney chart. Since you guys were talking about it, let me throw this up real quick. Here you go. On the monthly, if you measure from the lows down there, God, that was 2009, right? Down around $15 to its all-time high. We are currently sitting just above or right at the 618.
Yeah, it's like I think we're closer to the bottom than the top.
I would hope so.
You would hope so, right? Because Mickey's life is worth something at the end of the day. But there is so much on there between the writer strike, actor strike, to them hemorrhaging money, to a massive slowdown in attendance at Disney, the Disney properties. All of these things are coming together all at the same time. They need a headline. They need a headline that's saying, hey, that they're going to sell ESPN or sell some of the ABC prop. They need something in order to spur some covering, because that thing is straight targeted at this point. Now, there were 90 calls for this week, and some 91s that I bought, and I'm down more than I want to be. That came in for weeklies. Maybe it gets one of those dead cat bounces, but I think Murder Mouse is definitely one. It's there, Bender. We've seen it bounce off this level 1,000 times, man.
Well, and you can see these candle lows here on the monthly. Maybe this cycle is, the headlines they need to try to take that. But I think it's not a bad place to start a position on commons, knowing that, hey, if they drag it below 78, you get another opportunity, $10 lower, to kind of add some back in, unless Disney's going back to, where it was down in the 45 to 50 range back in 2011. You presumably, it holds above 70, 75.
And then the other headline coming off of it is whatever deal they end up signing with the writers and actors. That could definitely dent their forward revs. Sure. It's really, really wild story over there. Maybe we'll talk about it more as far as the dynamics over there. It's mind numbing in so many ways. All right, now we got less than a minute. I don't even get a cigarette.
Yep.
Let's go get it.
All right. See ya.